Back again for another video. Do you spend a lot of money on comics? Because if you do, you're definitely going to be interested in the content we have today. We're talking about eras, and we're really kind of just isolating them, talking about the specifics, and if it's a good investment to collect in a particular era. Today's era is from 2020 to current. Before we get into all that, every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Instagram, we do live claim sales. So if you want to see Rachel and I live selling comic books, that's the best place to find us. It's a cherry pick claim sale. That means that we offer stuff for the very first time to the public at that claim sale and then sell things other places, like where?
Yeah, so we do a buy it now feature on Instagram where we make a post with books for sale. We have one up all the time, so definitely check that out.
Yep.
QR code on the screen. You can just scan it to get right to our Instagram page. We also sell on eBay. We post books every single week on eBay. Super low shipping prices, tons of high-grade bronze and copper comics, slabs, and all of that good stuff. Make sure you follow us on eBay as well. Scan the QR code for more.
And on eBay, we just lowered those prices on shipping, so make sure to check that out. We buy collections. If you're thinking about selling a comic collection, regardless of size, regardless of what it has, where can people contact us?
Scan this QR code on the screen and it'll get you directly to our website where you can message us directly, or there's a link down below to get to our website to contact us there. You can also just message us on Instagram. So whatever's easiest for you, just reach out to us about your collection.
Why am I only talking about comics from 2020 till now? Because is that an era? It kind of is. We had something called the comic boom in 2020, late 2021, and comic prices went way up, more than they ever have as a group. And then they went way down, probably the biggest crash ever in terms of like values. So in this period, a lot has changed, and we're going to talk about some of that today. Are these books a good investment? Books that have come out since 2020. We're going to talk about some nuance to these types of comics so you can have some information if you're making a decision, if you want to hop into the modern market.
Yes, and we are going to use a rating system that we've created to kind of determine whether or not something is a good investment or not. So we'll go through a bunch of information here in a minute about this era, 2020 to 2025. We're going to break it down into 5 sections. The 5 sections being availability, meaning how many of them are out there. Demand, do people want to buy it? Price, how much are they and how much do they resell for? Their track record of sales, so how well are they doing in multiple sales to see if they're worth selling? And then finally, relevance. In the long run, will this still be a relevant era and will people still want to buy it?
And you'll see as we get into older eras, we're breaking them all out. Some eras we have a lot of data, some eras we don't, like this one. We're going to get into it. One thing to remember is if you're spending a lot of money on comic books, at some point you may decide that you want to sell some to get others, or you may not be around anymore, and the people that have those books will have to make a decision, we need to sell them or do we need to throw them away, which actually is a decision that people make. So if you're buying a lot of comic books now, is there a cautionary tale to tell? Should you be wary of some things? Or what are some ways that you can collect to maybe get books that are going to have a resale? A lot of people just buy what they like, and I totally get that. Absolutely, that's good.
That's the best way to go about it if you're a collector, is to buy what you like.
Yeah, and you might be the type of collector that's not an investor. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about investment. We're talking about people who don't mind spending a lot of money with the thought that at some point they're going to get more money for the thing they're buying.
So what does the modern market look like today? We're going to start by talking about price.
So an average comic book's between $4 and $10. You can actually spend more. You can go on someone's website. I bought a $50 metal cover comic from a guy's website that was a horror book. You can actually go on crowdfunded pages. You can go right to artists, pay hundreds of dollars. People can pay a lot of money or very little, $4. Comic book prices are going up with tariffs and everything that's going on now. We're expected to see more increases. So that's one aspect that needs to be considered is the cost. In my day, I used to get a pull box, and every week on Wednesday, I'd get 8 or 10 books every week. So if I was getting 10 books in a pull box, you can expect between $40 and $60.
A vast majority of modern comics, if you were to go and resell them today, would go for around $1.
Yeah, there's a lot of new books in dollar boxes, and you can pay more. We're talking about back issues with no key significance, and maybe a small group of people that are reading that book, and you're selling to the wider audience if you had boxes and boxes, but it's with a small group out of a large audience.
Well, there are so many modern books from from 2020 to 25 out there.
Yeah.
We're talking probably millions of copies, and that's because of variants. So let's talk about what variants are and what they look like in this era.
You're looking at a culmination of decades of trial and error with marketing comic books from publishers. So just name some of the things that we thought of that are present in variants.
Yes. So one of them being ratio variants.
Yeah.
You might see on eBay when you're looking through like a 1 in 10, a 1 in 200, a 1 in 700.
Like if, let's say it's 1 in 700, the retailer, the comic book store has to order 700 number ones in order to get that. And they're getting the other ratios too. They're getting the 1 in 5s. They're getting the 1 in 10s. And they all cost money. So it's added on. If you're getting the 1 in 10, you buy 10 and then you buy an 11th one. That's 1 in 10. It's a different cover.
And those are typically, they should be however much the ratio is. So typically if it's a 1 in 10, yeah, you'd sell it for $10 or buy it for $10. Like if
as a rule of thumb,
going well
with ratios, if they're popular, they'll get the ratio. So if it's a 1 in 10, $10. If it's a 1 in 25, $25. If it's super popular and people are hoarding them and people aren't really selling them, it can go for more.
Yep.
It can go for a lot more.
A lot less too.
It can go for $1. You know, I mean, it's like, so that's a big thing that a lot of people buy ratio variants.
Yes. If you're talking about just variants in general, like there are some issues that have upwards of hundreds of different copies of one book. So a number one could have up to 100 different cover variants.
Yeah, there's been some crazy runs of books that they'll just have every artist known draw cover.
Yes, and some of them have metal covers, they'll have foil covers, glow-in-the-dark covers, virgin variants without a trade dress, black and white sketch variants. There's tons of different types of variants out there. Comic Con exclusives.
Connecting covers. You put four together to make one picture.
A whole other caveat, signed comic books is like considered a type of variant that you can buy. So there are so many different types of modern books that you can buy from the last 5 years.
It's not just one book.
No.
And often, you know, why are people doing this? Because publishers want to make more money on comics. So the goal is I put out a number one, but I don't want you, consumer, to only buy one. I'd like you to get 10. I'd like you to want to get every cover because you love it so much. Mm-hmm. It's not to sell 10 covers to 10 different people. It's to sell 10 covers to one person. So it creates some demand on the best cover. And out of these books, my experience tells me that very rarely one of these just pops. And everyone wants them. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 in 5 or a 1 in 800. It pops and then people want it. Somehow the cognoscente meets and they agree this is the best cover and they go from there.
There's also a line of comic variants that are specific to comic book stores.
Yeah.
And those can also have their own like weird caveats.
Retailer variant, one per shop variant.
Yeah.
Or it can have your name. It might not even be a store. Someone like Comic Tom or Bryce Comics, they have their own variants and they'll run a bunch of different issues that are coming out at your comic book store, but not those covers, not those artists. So there's a lot of what we call noise. There's a lot of different elements. It's not a real simple thing to figure out. You kind of have to be around for a while and see what's going on.
And that kind of goes into like comic book artists in general during this time period, because I think there's a whole other like caveat to this where like people just want to buy their favorite comic book artist doing the cover of whatever issue they want. Some of those comic book artists are Peach Momoko, who's done those really cool watercolor covers that we've seen. She's blown up over the last 5 years.
Delato.
Yep, Gabriel Delato.
Yeah.
Tyler Kirkham is another one who's really popular. Art Germ, Mark Spears, which we're going to talk about him later. Jenny Frieson. There's tons.
These are all artists in this era that we're talking about. And there's so many more. And there's so many good artists. One thing I want to point out about the artists of this era, back in the day, artists used to sit down and draw it. And now it's being drawn, but electronically. So a lot of the art today is digital. An original doesn't exist. The only copy you're going to have is the one that you bought on the comic book. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's better or worse. It's just a fact. There used to be a team. There would be an inker. There would be a penciler. A penciler would make the sketch. The inker would draw ink over it. Then you'd have the script, the person that writes the words. You'd have a colorist that would go in and say what colors. There was a team. I don't know if they're so team-driven anymore.
Well, I know Tyler Kirkham has some original drawings of his covers that go for a lot of money. I saw that when I was looking online. So I think some of these artists still probably hand drawn, then maybe go digitally.
They may,
but
and I do see some modern painted covers, so there's still some examples out there of original art being transferred onto a comic book.
Yes.
There's been some new characters introduced. I'm going to have Rachel kind of just say the list, and we'll show you who they are.
Some of these I knew off the top of my head, some I didn't. America Chavez is one of them.
Yep.
Crush. Lobo's Daughter, Virus,
Yep.
Venom, Dylan Brock, The Monkey Prince. Remember that book?
Very
Radiant
popular.
Black, Radiant Pink, Berserker. Those are just to name a few of the characters that came out in the last 5 years. And I'm sure there's a ton more. You can throw them in the comments to let us know, because I don't know everything.
New characters are tough, and I'll tell you what, as we go through the books that we're going to profile, none of them are new characters.
No, which is interesting.
None of them are new characters. They're artist driven, or they're variant driven, and they demand a lot of money. So anyway, one thing about modern comics too, there's a lot of fandom and a lot of different reasons why people buy things. As an example.
Yeah, well, I was talking to you about this before we started filming, but like in 2020, there was obviously mass like nostalgia. Like people wanted to go back in time because they were stuck at home. And I know like video games were huge. Like even video game prices went up
Still
along
are.
with comics.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were just digging into nostalgia. So that's really been prevalent in the last 5 years in comic books, with like crossovers and things like that, and comic books that have come out that kind of relate to nostalgia.
One great example is Fortnite. Around that time, 2020, all these Fortnite comics started coming out. Super popular at the onset, and then immediately they dropped. The reason they became popular is you can get a character dressed like Batman. You can skin him in Batman. So you had to buy all the issues, and people did.
Yeah, and like Street Fighter was a big one. There's a bunch of Street Fighter comic books, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Godzilla. There's a ton of Godzilla crossovers, especially right now. I saw one with Fantastic Four, with the Avengers, with the Hulk. All of the, and like Funko Pop. There's a lot of Funko Pop variants.
Funko Pop covers. You got all these Scotty Young covers that are really popular. An artist we didn't mention, but Scotty Young does a bunch of stuff, and it becomes popular. So there's a lot of fandom and a lot of modern pop culture that when people see it in comic book form, they get excited and they just want to own that picture on a comic book.
And they're really catering to those people that are begging for more nostalgia, which I think is a market that has been tapped in this.
Some of these books are really, if you read them, you have to think that they're strictly going after getting optioned. So, a lot of them seem like they're ready for Netflix, including the storyboard. Radiant Black's a good example of that. Noctura is a good example of that. Saga is a great example of that.
I think that did get optioned and just died.
I think all of those have been optioned in some way, or there's been discussion. So it's a platform that has been used for a long time. But what's really changed comic books in this particular era is the DCEU and the MCU. Those ways of enjoying content on television now, or streaming, is completely different. I mean, it's been around for a long time. There's always been shows on the WB, but it's now you've got the studios behind these, and they're really putting a lot of money. I'll give you a great example is the Penguin series that just ran. One of the best things I've watched this year. Penguin was amazing. So they're doing some great stuff. I'm not saying any of this is bad. I'm just sharing with you that there's a lot of different ways to get at it now that are a little bit different, or at least advanced. Every time I watch a show and it's comic book based, I want that stuff.
Yeah, like you wanted The Last of Us #1 whenever the show came out.
I still do. Don't talk about it.
All right, let's talk about the 4 books that we're going to be deep diving on in this era.
Yeah, I think there's some good examples that are pretty relevant for people to get an understanding of like how we came up with a rating for investment in 2020 to 25. So what book should we do first?
Yes. All right, the first book we're going to be talking about is Mark Spear's Monsters #1 from 2025, end of 2024.
Yeah, we're not going to get into like every issue or the entire series. We're going to talk about the #1 because it's interesting, and it definitely matches some other things that if you weren't around for them, you may have forgotten already.
It was started as a Kickstarter, which is interesting. It's from Keen Spot Entertainment. That's the company that made the comic book.
11,000 #1s were printed. Yeah.
That's crazy. I went through on cover price.
By the way, that's low if you didn't know.
That's not very many, especially considering all the other books out there.
An average book is between like, let's say 30 and 100,000.
And there are a lot of limited edition ones in this. So I'm going to throw up on the screen all the cover price covers. I went through, there's 69 variants of the #1. I counted, there's 28 of those 69 comics that are under $100. The rest of them are over $100 or have no sales at all to determine how much they're worth.
This reminds me of the comic boom. I was telling Rachel as we were doing the research, it's inordinately high for these books. It's going to be fascinating to see what time does with this, and it has a lot to do with people, I think, wanting more than one issue.
Yeah.
You know?
Or, artists coming up with a design that they think people will want and only making a few of them.
And as we break the series down to each era, you'll see other books that are similar. You'll see other books that demand grows over time or wanes over time, and some of the reasons why. Now, cover A is it's the main cover. So it's like the cover, should be the easiest to get. Here is the nuance here. If you're a comic collector or even a comic investor, you want to be able to go into a comic book store or just hop online and grab a book at cover price. That would be the ideal situation. In the month that it came out, I'd like to get it at cover price. This was never available like that.
No.
You had to do it on a Kickstarter. So don't know exactly what they spent, but people had to invest in this book way in advance in order to get it.
Yes. Right now, cover A on average, raw, in like a near mint copy, sells for $145.
That's pretty high for a very modern book.
Yeah, and for a near mint.
It's brand new.
Yeah, not a 9.8.
It has defects on it.
A 9.8 just recently sold for $424.
Yeah, so, and it's been out for a little while, and then there was a 9.9 sale as well.
Yes, the 9.9 sold for $1,000.
Yeah,
recently.
so, 11,000 people pay $500 for that book. What a jackpot for the people who had bought them, because I guarantee you they didn't spend they spent a fraction of that. So this is an interesting book. You may feel, if you just collect moderns, that, man, I missed the bus, I didn't get one, now I got to go spend $500. I will tell you, the only piece of advice I'll give anyone in this video, wait. It may not even be the right advice. Maybe this book is the best book that ever came out. It's better than Black Cat 50, and it's going to be show cover of Black Cat 50. Boom. And it's going to be like the cat's meow forever. Then I'm wrong and sue me. But right now I'm here to tell you, I'd wait, because 11,000 is not a small number.
No.
There are not 11,000 Black Cat 50s.
It's really similar. We were talking about this earlier before filming. It's really similar to Something is Killing the Children in that it's a low print.
Yeah.
Obviously, Something is Killing the Children is a lower print than this. But as far as like how many are available and the price point, it's pretty similar.
Right. So Something is Killing the Children in a 9.8 got up to around $1,200. And now it hovers between $450, $550 in 9.8. There's still some demand. It's got optioned.
Yeah.
So people are waiting, but the thing is, it could take 5, 6, 7, 8 years, never, for this to actually hit something. And when it does hit, they could mess that up and not do a good job, and then the book dies in perpetuity. Yeah. So,
and obviously they've reprinted it like a million times. So, but I wanted to make the comparison because it is kind of similar. I have two other covers that I wanted to talk about in this series. They're two of the covers that have sold for the most. I just thought it would be interesting to talk to you guys about that. One of them being the Todd McFarlane homage variant, based off the Spider-Man cover, which is up on the screen now. Very cool cover. This specific one that I'm talking about is the metal cover. There's only 3 of them in existence.
Yeah, so metal covers, if you don't own one, they're absolutely beautiful pieces of art.
They're so cool.
They have a lot of weight to them. The back page is paper. The front cover's metal. And this is like just a complete swipe from Spider-Man #1, I think came out in 1991. Only it's the werewolf. So yes. Is the werewolf a new character? Absolutely not. Werewolf's been around for more than a century in popular culture.
And is this homage new? No, it's been homaged a million times.
This is a manufacturer collectible. The publisher hopes that there's a lot of demand for it. It's not always the case. Sometimes there's no demand. Sometimes the demand is like this one. How much does this book go for?
So I only have one sale. Obviously, there's only 3 of them that exist. So that makes sense to me. It sold for $2,000 raw. Yeah.
So these aren't going to trade hands often. And in the world of $2,000, what else could you get for $2,000? And is this, if you have a lot of expendable income and you decide that that's the best werewolf cover I've ever seen, then I get you'd want this. But I don't think it's ever going to make a big splash in the market because there's only 3 of them.
Or will it sell for $2,000 again? We don't know.
Yeah, you really don't know.
It has not traded since.
It's an unknown. Yes.
Here's another one. So this one is cover E. It's pretty sick.
I really do think it's a sex sells cover.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Which is a nuance that people, this is the Bride of Frankenstein. If you're just looking at it and wondering like who this character is, Here's another character that's been around for a long, 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 long time. Not a new character. Did Mark Spears do a good job? I love this piece of art. I think it's great.
Yeah.
How much would I spend on this book if I wanted to get it?
Well, it's a 10.0. Okay, so I have a 10.0 sale and a 9.8 sale just to kind of compare because there's multiple sales of this cover variant.
Yeah, undistributed books coming straight from manufacturing, you could get 10 O's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a possibility.
Well, and the 10.0 makes the other prices go down quite a bit, typically.
It can if there's more of them.
Yeah. So the 10.0 sold for $2,025.
Yeah.
In the last couple months, a 9.8 sold for $350.
So it's 7-8x over what this is. I don't know if I would personally invest that. I know that some people are loving these covers and it's bringing back nostalgia and they think they're cool. I'm going to show you so many books that didn't hold up, and I'm coming from that place. I talk to you coming from that place because in the year 2020, I decided to get back into comics, so I went to the local comic book store, and that year I spent $38,000 on new books from a comic book store. So I'm not just saying I watch you guys. No, man, I was buying ratio variants and doing stuff, and most of them I find to be very difficult to sell.
Yeah. I wanted to also mention another series that really was kind of similar to this monster series, which was Stray Dogs, just in the fact that they had so many cover variants that were themed around horror.
And when Stray Dogs came out, it's when I came back to the hobby, and it was the Cat's Meow. People were chasing those books, and it was what they would do is they would do a second print, third print, fourth print, and in those later printings of the same issue, there was no bars held. They would do any kind of swipe from a horror movie, if it was Halloween or if it was The Exorcist, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
They did all these swipes
Niche horror movies.
That were just great.
Yes, and they were really cool. So like in 2021, the highest that the standard Stray Dogs cover went for, just cover A, was $600.
Yeah, the most available copy. And now, today, if you were to buy that book, I think sales are what?
It sold for just recently, sold for $35 today.
And that's, one of the things that I'm really aware of in this new modern market is that things go up so high and they go down so low that there's a trepidation you have to take when you go to buy these things. When I go to buy these things, there's a trepidation I have to take. I have to be really careful. And I've learned my lesson because I got spanked on a couple of books that I did that with.
Well, and I think too, if it goes back to, if you're buying something that you truly like, you're not necessarily buying it because you think you can flip it, then that doesn't really matter how much you spend if you're comfortable with how much you spent with it.
One of the things that's different about Stray Dogs, number one, is you could buy that at your comic book store.
Yeah. These ones you couldn't because of the Kickstarter.
Yeah, so a lot of these books you cannot, as a collector, now we're switching gears, we're talking about collectors and non-investors. As a collector, you can't just go in and buy a lot of this stuff. You might see a copy, it's really expensive. You're like, I never had a shot to buy that because they're manufactured collectibles and people want to make money off them. If it's the person who owns a comic book store, they don't want everyone else to make all the big money. They immediately get in a 1-in-100 ratio, put it on the shelf for $100,
And hope.
That way they don't have to fight over who gets it. I get
Right.
that, and that makes sense. But that's kind of what the market's turned into, is that from a retail perspective, comics can be very expensive. Someone who's in the aftermarket, someone who has a YouTube channel, they can all sell them for much more, and you never had a shot at them because they were never in the store, and they're kind of something else, but they're popular. I mean, people are buying these books.
Yeah. Let's talk about another one.
Okay.
The next book that we're going to be talking about is Blood Hunt Red Label #1.
Yeah, so when these came out, even my brother, who does not buy modern books, he stopped buying books like 6 years ago, he asked me if I could get a copy of this, and he was willing to pay $375 for it.
Yeah, and this is the Lao variant with Thor looking all messed up.
Well, this is a cover swipe from Crime Suspense Stories number 16.
So not original.
Not an original cover, and that's why my brother wanted it. He collects
Yep.
EC comics from
Makes
Pre-Code. And so this cover swipe with Thor's head, how fun. They want, once again, we talked about video games, it's going back to that, you want more blood? Well, here's more blood, and it's like...
Don't have to ask them twice. They'll bring it.
Well, I saw this and I like it. It looks distressed and it set the book up to look like it was a Pre-Code book with a picture frame. Let's talk about this book in the resale market.
So there are 233 total universally graded copies of this book.
And raws floating around.
Yes, I only have graded data because there's quite a bit of graded GPA data on this book. There are 3 9.9s and there are 219 9.8s. So it's mainly 9.8s, but there's some 9.9s out there. The highest price for a 9.8 was $375. It was in 2024.
Yep.
And
Last year.
the lowest that it ever sold for was $110, and that was this year, 2025. So it went down quite a bit.
And that's what I'm saying. These, no matter how popular or how much you see people crowding to them, remember, there is something you can look at to kind of gauge how much you should spend. The thing back then would have been to wait. Just wait. And I remember telling people, just wait. It will go down. And no one,
of it all.
the fear of missing out really takes over, and people think, no, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't go down? Then maybe this is the cheapest price.
And there's chances are that could happen.
You guys, these are comic books. Wait. You know what I'm saying? There's more of them out there than you think.
Well, like I said, the highest that a 9.8 sold for was $375. A 9.9 just recently sold for $350. So what does that tell you a 9.8 should go for now? Like probably even lower than $100.
Well,
really just depends.
the incremental difference between a 9.8 and a 9.9, for me, I'd be focused on the 9.8.
Absolutely. There's way more 9.8s available. But if you're just trying to get the rarest
I
version of
always
that book,
recommend people buy the book and not the label. I know that from investment purposes, you think, if I get a 10.0, no matter what, forever, this book's going to be worth money. And I can tell you, that's not the case. I mean, someone has to buy it in order for it to be worth money. Next book.
So this next book is Amazing Spider-Man #1 from 2022. The Eminem Hustle variant cover.
Looks straight out of 8 Mile with Spider-Man. Yeah.
And it's limited to 5,000 copies. And we're just talking about this variant. We're not talking about like the sketch version or the one that he signed. We're just talking about this one.
So many people were hyping this book up. This book is a must-have. I mean, how much were they going for?
So in 2022, the highest that it sold for in 9.8 was $2,500.
Astronomical.
So whoever got that was happy,
Yeah.
I assume.
Well,
I assume.
I hope so.
The lowest it sold for that year was $1,350.
So huge difference, and it depends on what dates and how many. I bet not a lot sold for $2,500. So how's this book doing today?
So, well, in 2024, there was a 9.9 that sold. That one sold for $10,000, which is crazy. There's probably only 1 or 2 9.9s on the census,
Don't
I
know.
would assume.
Yeah, but we don't know how many are out there yet.
But just recently, this year, a 9.8 sold for $750.
Okay. It's still holding some water. I'll give you that. But once again, what if you would have waited? I mean, if you're just looking for, I want the very best copy that's ever existed, signed by Eminem with his sweat on every page, I get that. I mean, that's a collectible. That's just something that you want to have. But in the world of like, I'd like a copy of that cover because I like it. I don't know. I mean, is it worth it? No, it wouldn't be for me.
To someone, it might.
I wanted it. Here's the funny thing. If that was $20, I'd have bought it. And they could have.
Well, there's only 5,000 of them.
Could they have printed 50,000 and sold them for $20? Maybe. But they opted another direction. Comic book stores need that kind of gravity to pull people into the store, and I get that. Not many people got them. That's all I can say. Not a lot of people got a hold of those. So you're never going to walk into a store and see a book like that on the shelf.
But to go back to like, is this something that's
When
original?
I say on the shelf, I mean for cover price.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the cover price of that would have been because it was always kind of pushed to be more expensive.
It's absolutely a throwback to 8 Mile.
Yeah. It's not original. It's got Eminem, it's got Spider-Man. Those are two people that
It's
existed.
retro. It's retro.
It's not original, which is not a bad thing. It's just we're pointing that out. All right, let's talk about the last book.
And this is a case study. I mean, if you're going to let's do some research on these modern books that are really cool variants. This is the one that, you shouldn't forget about if you're around.
Well, I think if anyone was buying comics in 2023, especially modern comics, you know about this book because it was a big controversy at the time. And it is Ultimate Fallout 4, the Black Flag Acetate and God We Trust variant cover.
Ended up being this big thing they called Acetate Gate. And all kinds of YouTube, celebrities were having like big discussions. And it was like, you couldn't be on a channel except ours. We never spoke about it.
We've never talked about it. Until now!
Yeah, because this is a bit of a cautionary tale about buying modern books that get hyped and shilled like this one. Shill, S-H-I-L-L, shill. I used to work in casinos. And the first casino I worked at was the Golden Gate in downtown Las Vegas. I was a crap dealer. Whenever our crap table went down, we had a person on the payroll that would come up to our table, grab a stack, we'd hand them a stack of chips to play with, and they'd play till another customer came. They'd hand us the chips back. We take all the chips, and now we got a game started. That's what a shill does. There's lots of people out there that say, hey, you guys, this is the best thing ever. You need to buy it. Shilling comics is such a big part of the comic market now. There are lots of people that have their own variants, and they're talking about them. This is the next best thing. You got to get this. You don't see DC out there doing that. You don't see Marvel or Image or anyone out there shilling
Dark
books.
Horse.
Now, they might pay someone to do it, right? We want you to get in front of people. You have a big audience, so we'd like to pay you to talk about it, but that's what a shill is. And that's kind of changed comics a little bit, puts comics front of mind. People are willing to spend more. It's not to get $5 for a comic. If it is, it's to buy 3,000. I'm going to sell 3,000 of these, so I got these special variants too, and these variants are going to be a little more. I'll sell you one for $150. So they get shilled in a way that is kind of different. This didn't exist before 2020. This is a new part of the market, so people are adjusting. Some people get really upset about it. Some people just realize, look, it's a business and people are running their business. We personally don't. I made a decision not to do that because it didn't match my objective for what I want to do, which is sell vintage comics that I like.
Yeah, and not that we don't sell modern comics, or that we don't get them in collections and things like that, but that's not our focus.
Yeah, I pick them up in collections. I don't play the game of like getting 3-4 months ahead and buying a bunch. I did that with the first EC because I like EC, and I bought a bunch of them.
And it kind of goes into our horror vibe.
Yeah, it has to match my sensibility, but other people's sensibilities, they really want to, they want to make money and they want to sell comics, and that's how they've decided to do it. But let's talk about this acetate cover, which is kind of interesting.
Yes. I'll just do like a quick overview of what happened in case you don't know. And this was just me reading a Reddit article. So if I missed anything, please leave it down below because I don't know.
Thank God for Reddit. Reddit will save the world.
So this book that Black Flag came up with didn't have the acetate cover on it originally. They were selling their variant for about $20, $25, and it did not sell very well, according to my research.
And that's true. I remember that.
And so they said, okay, we're going to come out with a new variant, and it's going to be even more exclusive. There's only going to be 750 of them, and you can only get them at this Comic-Con.
Yep.
And they sold those for $85 a pop, and it was basically the same book, but with an acetate cover stapled to the outside of it.
4 staples now.
4 staples.
And they got some pre-graded.
Yeah, they got some pre-graded prior to the con, and before the con even opened, they were sold out.
And some people bought a lot of them, and a lot of people were beefing, and here we go.
And it would get blue labeled with 4 staples, which was a controversy on its own.
Oh, there was
There's
people.
A lot of weird stuff going on.
On the CGC board, there's a chat board on CGC. You should have heard some of the conversations going on.
I'm sure people were not happy about it.
Because, the comic market's sensitive, and sometimes you want to know what to watch out for, and it's stuff like this. And so this book was going in the aftermarket very expensive.
Well, the numbers for it still today are actually pretty astounding considering.
Well, let's talk about it.
So let's see. The recent sale, there was only one sale in 9/8. That's recent, from 2024. But a 9/8 sold in last year, 2024, for $500.
You know what's really interesting about that? The original Ultimate Fallout 4 first appearance of Miles Morales is around $850 right now. This is a reprint years later with 4 staples in it and an acetate cover, and it gets half.
And if you go to GPA...
I don't know about that personally.
If you go to GPA and you look this book up, it has its own section in GPA. Because usually with facsimiles and like reprints, they're underneath the same title. They would be underneath Ultimate Fallout. This is under its own title, an own section. If you go, I'll show it on the screen. If you go to GPA, you click it, it just has 1 issue and it's number 4. And it's specific to this variant and like the other variant that they did. A 9/9 sold in 2024 for $700. Only one sale for each of these, by the way.
Well, that indicates a slowdown. That means that if you put a copy out there, it's not going to go for asking. And you start figuring out where the bottom is. And people start here and they whittle down until they figure out what it takes to sell a book. So you might see, when you see no sales on a modern book, it means the book's cold.
In 2023, a 10.0, this was 2 years prior, or a year prior to the $700 sale, a 10.0 sold for $4,800.
Yeah, that's
Always
kind
only
of
one
scary.
sale.
Whoever bought that is really unhappy, and making the world unhappy one person at a time when it's in the comic community, it's bad, man. So my only recommendation is wait. I mean, anytime you see something like this, if you have to pay high premium like retail, you're probably better off waiting. Fight the FOMO. You know, fight the fear of not getting that book, because there's so many other good comic books, and it's a real thing. I'm not trying to make fun of it. It's a real thing when people get all tied up and like, I'd really want this in my collection, and that's part of the collecting bug, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that at the end of the day, if you're going to be spending a lot of money on something like this that, you know, it may not hold its value over time, just let it be something you really like. Because at the end of the day, even if you do spend a lot of money on something, if you really enjoy it and are happy with it, okay.
Yeah, I still think the ultimate fallout for first appearance of Miles Morales, first print, is
It would make more sense to get
the
that.
most investable of all of these.
Yes.
There was a variant for that book, and you could throw that up there. The 1 in 25. I remember I saw this at a convention for $28,000.
Wow.
Can you put the price? It's gone down. I mean, unbelievably gone down. So just once again, waiting is great, because I literally looked at that book like, should I invest in that? Is that going to go up? What was I thinking, man? I'm glad I didn't do that.
All right, so let's talk about some pros and cons about purchasing books from 2020 to 2025. Here are the pros. They are much more accessible. There's usually a lot more copies of them.
I mean, it's fun to wait for New Comic Book Day on Wednesday and see all the books come out.
Yeah, there's lots
see
of new
what's coming out.
merchandise.
There's a lot of fun titles, lots of cool covers, lots of new titles coming out all the time. There are just so many publishers now printing just about anything you could want.
Yeah, there's a lot of price points. Like you can find a modern book for $2. You can find one for hundreds of dollars. Just kind of depends on what you're looking to buy. If you're just buying to read something, there's definitely a price point that would work in the just reading a comic book.
Easily accessible in any town. You're going to have a comic store that sells new books. Yeah.
I think that it brings younger generations to comic books because of all the nostalgia factors. I think
Right.
that that's a pro. It brings people to read comic books, especially with books like facsimiles or reprints. Like it brings younger people to those reprints, like X-Men 141,
Yep.
The first appearance of the Punisher, like all of these books that aren't very accessible.
They're doing reprints every week now. I'm seeing new reprints from old books that are identical reprints, and I think those are cool.
And then we have some cons.
So a lot of these books that seem to be hot may not be hot. So not in the long term. That's a con. So if you're spending more than cover price, it's a wise thing to just be really careful on how much you go up. And a lot of these books just don't hold. If 2 books hold a year, I'm surprised, literally. So just note, like, you know, in a 12-month period, how many books get hyped, how many books people say, oh man, this is a must get. And then what the value is later, because you might be better suited to read that book in a different version, even online if you're trying to read it. There's a lot of hype and there is a lot of shilling going on. So you've got to be wary of that.
You can easily overpay for things, and FOMO is a big factor in these books in this era.
Yes. Another thing about these modern books is that really investment grade's 9.8 or higher. So that's one of the things, if you're buying books from a comic book store, I would look at them. I mean, examine them before you buy them. People used to get mad at me because I would reject some books. They had like a soft corner or it had a small crease. And if I'm buying a brand new book, I'd like it to be as pristine as I can get it. You know, because if you do buy a book and it's a 9.4, and I'm telling you, a lot are like that, you're going to go to sell it, and let's say it's hot, it might be worth 1/3 in that grade. And you can't even tell with the naked eye. So that's a con, is that they're really only sellable in the very highest grades. And if you overpay, that kind of happens.
Yes. Let's go into our rating system for the 2020s to now. Okay, we're going to rate them 1 through 5. 1 being low, 2 being moderate, 3 being average, 4 being above average, and 5 being high.
Yep.
So let's start with availability. How available are these books to the public?
So a lot of books are really available every Wednesday at your comic book store, and some of them you're never going to have availability at cover price. And we're talking about a lot of them. So the availability is a bit wonky on this one, and not as high as you'd expect because they come out every week.
And we gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, so it's a little higher than moderate, but a lot of stuff that people really kind of get dangled in front of them, they can't have. I mean, it might be out of their price range or what they find to be sensible, etc.
What about demand? Do people want to buy them?
Of all the people buying comics, is this like what people are looking for? Books from 2000 and 2025.
We gave this 2.5.
Yeah, and we did a quick poll right before we did this. 50 or 60 people responded, and only 10% of the people that responded say they buy books from this era.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't a huge pool, but it got, and with
not
what
scientific.
We focus on, Yeah. The next is price. How much are they selling for these? How much are they reselling for? Is it worth it?
Yeah, this is more about what it costs you. So some of these are going to be really expensive if you're trying to get the rare ones, and some of them are, in the world of comic books, you're going to be spending an average of $4 or $5. So we gave that
2.5.
pretty cheap.
Yeah.
2.5 is under average. So
you can pretty much get any issue you want if you don't care about the cover and you don't care about the variants. You can buy any book you want for a couple bucks.
Yeah, wait till you see Silver Age. As we start getting older, that price metric moves up.
All right, what about track record of sales? How they're holding their value over time?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of runway behind us.
Yeah, 5 years isn't a ton of time.
And each book is in its own lane in some degree.
Well, and things like the Monsters books, like we really don't know what those are going to look like in 5 years from now. We gave this a solid 2 because we just really don't know what it's going to look like. But right now, it's not looking great.
Yeah. I would say from an investment perspective, you're looking for 3 or over to be on the safer side. You're looking for 5s. I don't think it exists. It might exist for a particular book, but maybe not in a whole era. So, yeah, that's my response to that.
The last one is relevance. In the long term, how relevant are these comic books going to be?
Yeah, so when Mickey Mouse's first appearance came in 4-color 16, that's pretty relevant. The first time Iron Man showed up on a cover, first time Hulk showed up. Relevant as all get out. How relevant are today's books? And a lot of the characters are retreads of characters from the past.
Well, yeah, like all the ones that we talked about today, most of them are not original. They're based off of old characters. Yeah. Even the cover variants are based off of old covers. So we gave relevance a 1.
Yeah, we don't feel from our discussion, and we'd love to hear what you think, that these are going to be around 50 years from now in terms of like, hey man, that Radiant Black, he's my favorite superhero. I don't know if that's going to happen.
But it's hard for us to say, number one, because there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of issues in this era. And so this is just based on our overarching information that we've gathered.
Yeah, it takes time to kind of build that fandom, and time is not, on these book sides. So from an investment perspective, where are we at?
So overall, out of everything that we talked about today in the modern era from 2020 to 2025.
So 25 is the most you can get. Out of 25, what did this get?
This got 11.5 points out of 25. So this gives us an average rating out of 5 of 2.
Yeah. One of the, some things I would put out there, if you do want to collect in this area, you love the books and stuff, and you want to do it from an investment perspective, you may want to get way ahead of it. Key Collector Comics, not a sponsor, by the way. They have a really good app that tells you what's coming out in the next few months, and it tells you if it has key significance, or, it really has the kind of information you want that a lot of retailers get when they get their order books, and they get them from each vendor, or they get it from the distribution company. So you kind of have to get 3-4 months ahead of it, but you could, if you really got strategic, just get keys. Now, Rachel and I were discussing this video, and she goes, even if they did that, Dad, I'm not sure if that's a great investment. And that's the thing about investment. You're never sure. You're never sure. And
the thing I was thinking about the most when going through all of this content is a lot of these books that we consider manufactured collectibles are really similar to me as like a blind bag or a Labubu of the time, where
I didn't even know what that was.
You didn't know what a Labubu.
Show a Labubu.
You may not know what a Labubu is
show
either.
it. I don't know.
Not necessarily a fad, but something that's really popular right now, that's worth a lot of money. In the next 5 years, probably will not be worth as much as it is now.
And watch out for Beanie Babies, and manufactured collectibles can be dangerous. Yeah.
All right. I think that's everything. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time. We do have each era we're going to break out like this, and they're all very different. It's pretty fascinating.
If you like this content, please like and subscribe and comment, because then it will be encouraged to make more about the other eras.
And tell us what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did we leave a bunch of stuff out? Throw some comments. We'll engage with you. We'll answer. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.